All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 55 of the In the Flat podcast. I'm your host, Tony Kill, joined this week by Jordan Schultz and Jess Saban. All right, guys, we have a lot to discuss this week. We'll be breaking down week 8 of the college football season, talking about the week 9 slate of games. But first, we got to jump into some news. There's a little bit of news out there. First, Texas A&M, that program, after they lost to South Carolina this past week, they continue to kind of crumble. They suspended 3 for Texas A&M for the upcoming game. I don't know how long they're going to be suspended. I'm guessing for a little bit of time, but they suspended 3: cornerback Denver Harris, wide receiver Chris Marshall, and offensive lineman PJ Williams. There's rumors of maybe another involved as well, but maybe doing some non-appropriate things in the locker room. I won't go into rumors here, although it's officially announced what it is. But all are part of the talented freshman class from last year. It seems like maybe they're losing the locker room a little bit. The culture is getting a little bit out of whack. I mean, I know if you fire Jimbo, you have to pay $80 million or something crazy like that. But Jordan, I mean, at this point, what would you do if you're in charge of Texas A&M?
First off, they are suspended indefinitely. That's what it says. That's what the news came out. But if I was Texas A&M, I'd definitely try to talk to our boosters and try to pay off Jimbo's contract. I just don't think he's really not. Texas A&M has the best recruiting class they've had, top 5, top 10 recruiting classes for the last several years under Jimbo, but they don't develop. And like I've said before, they're developing players, not like in Alabama or Georgia where they have these, but they have these 5-star, 3 or 4-star recruits that have high praise, and they just don't get developed at Texas A&M. So I would try to figure out some way to get rid of Jimbo. He's not, like you said, Tony. He's there. It seems like the coaching staff's losing this locker room, and it seems like it's really driving the team down, especially after they, that loss to South Carolina, where they fumbled. Was it they fumbled the kickoff return or something, and right away they threw an interception the first play of the game. So they just look. The coaching staff doesn't have control of their team. All the the culture is so gone right now at Texas A&M.
All right, Jess. Any other statements here on Jimbo State there at Texas A&M?
I mean, Texas A&M, they've got the boosters. They got to find a way. I mean, Jimbo might be the best recruiter in the country, but that doesn't mean anything if it doesn't translate to on the field production. And like Jordan was saying, they're not developing. They're not seeing real progress here. You can have all the number 1 recruiting classes, but it's not like in high school where if you just have the more talented players, that's enough to win. As Texas A&M is, freaking showing us every Saturday. It's not a matter of talent. There are Penn State will take some 3-star guys and really go for it. I mean, sure, at the end of the day, some Alabama is more talented, Georgia's more talented, but if you have that kind of talent and it's not translating, there's only so much Texas A&M should stand here with Jimbo, and they've got the money. Sure, it's not going to be pretty, but I don't know, demote him to just being a recruiter, have him get rid of him. I don't know, but something needs to be done.
No, I agree. I think at this point they got a lot of good recruits there. They need someone that could take those recruits, develop them, and mold them into something special. And so I think this might be the best opportunity to hire a more sturdy, steady coach that can come in, hopefully save those classes, keep people from transferring, and then move forward with those and get that development. And this class over the next couple of years can be really special, which in turn will help recruit itself down the road. The boosters are willing to pay, so I think the recruiting by that. So I think this is the time to move on. But obviously, $80 million is not my money, so somebody's got to pay that bill. I don't know if anybody wants to pay that bill to fire someone, so that's going to be a tough conversation for sure.
Maybe they'll do what Tennessee did with the goalposts and start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, maybe. I'm sure there'll be some fans willing to pay some money for that. All right. So a little other pieces of news. Nothing crazy, but honestly, Charlotte fired its head coach, Will Healy. He started 1-7 this year, was 15-24 in 3+ seasons. There was constant articles about he's the next up and coming coach because he he started his coaching career around age 30, and he was really did well in other areas. So surprised he got fired, but he never got to go in there in Charlotte. Jackson State is looking to host ESPN's College Game Day for the first time this season. So kudos for them. That should be a pretty good environment for their student athletes out there. Um, the Big Ten is looking to keep its divisions in 2023 before reconfiguring when USC and UCLA arrive in 2024. So they'll keep the same model this coming up year, and then move to a model where everybody's kind of in one conference. There's no divisions after that point, or at least that's what I think that's what they're going to. And then finally, I did just want to mention that Tyler Van Dyke, who I even hyped him up in the offseason, will be one of the top quarterbacks coming to the NFL draft. Miami's quarterback got injured and lost to Duke. Man, they got beat down by Duke too, 41-21. But he injured his arm, was holding his right elbow tight to his body. He might be out for a little bit of time. So that situation in Miami for Mario Cristobal is not looking good. And you have to wonder if he's kind of rethinking that decision to leave Oregon to go back to his alma mater. But what Jordan, any thoughts on any of these bits of news before we move on to the Week 8 results?
No, just the College Game Day going to Jackson State. It's huge for Jackson State in general, but it's huge for all the HBCU schools, and it's a huge thing because it's a huge matchup this weekend for Jackson State. So big for them.
Yep, for sure. Anything stand out to you, Jess?
The Big Ten reconfiguring. There's been a whole lot of talk recently about, particularly with the SEC and how they do things. I mean, we were just discussing this a bit before the pod. Because of how the conferences are set up in the championship game. Alabama loses to Tennessee, but then doesn't really have any heavy hitters remaining on the schedule. So chances are they'll go to the championship game, and they'll either play Georgia or maybe rematch against Tennessee. And if they win that, then we could possibly be looking at a 3 SEC team playoff here. So if it's just ends up being like who ends up on top, if they restructure and then it's just one big conference with regular standings, or maybe they really go into like an East-West format, where USC UCLA is on one side, then you got like the Rutgers and the Marylands on another. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how it affects the Big Ten and possibly even the playoff going forward with USC is up to really competing, and it's not just Ohio State, Michigan every year.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think most conferences should go what the Big 12 is doing, which is there is no divisions. You have one conference. The top 2 teams play each other at the championship game. I mean, it gives you a good matchup at the end of the year. It's the true top 2 teams. It's not like what you see in the Big 10 every year where you have like a Northwestern get into the championship game to get blown out by Ohio State. It doesn't help anybody. Doesn't help Northwestern, doesn't help Ohio State, doesn't help the Big Ten. So, if you need to get down to it, if Michigan, Ohio State are the 2 best teams at the end, they need to play each other again and see who goes to the playoff. I mean, that's what it should be. So hopefully, eventually everybody moves there. Go ahead, Jordan.
But with that, like if you look at the Big Ten, you have one side of the conference is Ohio State, Michigan State, and the other side is all nobodies. So the one side of the conference, it's whoever can beat, Ohio State or Michigan gets in. But you would want to see like you said, Tony, Ohio State, Michigan, top teams, they get to play each other again. How big that game is already. Imagine it being in the Big Ten championship in front of, all Big Ten fans like that. It would just be huge.
No, for sure.
And then if it ends up working out like really well, especially for ratings, like imagine the ratings of Ohio State, Michigan in the Big Ten championship, winner goes to the playoff kind of thing, rather than just what it is right now. One team wins, then the loser has no shot at the playoff, because chances are the other one they're both undefeated. Let's say Ohio State beats Michigan this year, and then Ohio State just goes to play Purdue, I don't know, Northwestern, Nebraska, whoever ends up coming out, I'm just throwing teams out here. But if that was Ohio State, Michigan again, I mean, imagine a the SEC kind of taking up that formula, the Big 12. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities here, but we're not going to know until 2024.
Yep. Well, and hopefully, like I said, hopefully more conferences go to that kind of model. I think it'd be nice to have a consistent approach across everybody. That way, there's not a perceived you know, easy paths to the playoff. Everybody has to kind of go for the same path. It'd be nice. All right,
Except for Clemson.
let's dive into except for Clemson. They do have that easy path. So until they play Notre Dame in 2 weeks, right, Jess? So week 8, week 8 results. So Clemson hung on to beat Syracuse. As we're talking about Clemson, 27-21. DJ struggled again. He was benched, but I would say, their 5-star that came in, he did not light up the field. It was more the running attack came in, and they just really started pounding the rock and won the game that way. But Jordan, what do you see happening here over the next couple of weeks? Clemson's on a bye. They go to Notre Dame next. Do you see DJ kind of holding on to this job, or is this basically slowly starting to slip away from him?
I think it's slowly starting to slip away. But honestly, it might be a good thing for DJ and Clemson in the sense that DJ is losing his job. He knows he is right now, and he could turn it around and finish the season strong and play the best games he has, like we saw him before play. So it could be a big thing. But I think the biggest thing Clemson did with putting in the backup not really passing the ball is now, Notre Dame, they play him after the bye. Notre Dame has no film on this guy. He threw 4 passes, completed 2. He looks like he can run a little bit, but Notre Dame has no film on him really. So if he starts, it's going to be tough to figure out what's going to happen, especially for Notre Dame coming up. But I called it. I didn't call it. I thought Syracuse was going to win this game, but a lot closer than both of you guys thought. And
all I remember is me and Jess picked Clemson, so that's all I'll recall from that conversation.
Yeah,
so.
But I hate you guys. I like we talk about all the time. I think Clemson's off defensive line is one of the best in the country, and it showed this game. But it didn't look like Syracuse ran that much.
Yeah, it was weird. Their star running back, they just didn't run the ball. There's got to be more to that story. They're just not saying it. It's a little weird. They didn't run the ball as much as they could. Jess, on this one, any thoughts on this one? Were you surprised that? I know we both picked Clemson to win pretty handily, but are you surprised Syracuse had as good a showing as they did, especially considering they didn't run the ball as like they have been all year?
I mean, I had picked Clemson to win. Jordan didn't. But I didn't think it was going to be some big blowout. I thought it was going to be about a 2-score game. Syracuse put up way more of a fight. One of the things that I said is Clemson needs to, keep their foot on their opponent's throat and, just maintain these leads, but they've been struggling to do that. I thought if Clemson is smart, I think they bench DJ the rest of the way. He has shown that he has his moments. He was a 5-star guy for a reason, but he just has not developed. He has not taken the steps necessary. And I think, they got this 5-star guy. What was his name? Klubnik, something like that.
Yep. Cade Klubnik.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik. And he comes in. They don't really give him that much of a workload. Have him take this bye week. Give him the starting reps. Then see what he can do, against Notre Dame. I think that if they're smart, they got to see what they got in this guy. And DJ has shown that he's not the answer. And if they're struggling, Syracuse is a good team. But if he's struggling against Syracuse and they really want to compete for the playoffs, you think he's going to do better against a Michigan or Georgia or, however this playoff ends up being? Those are some really good defenses in the top 4. And if they want that spot, then they need a guy who can throw against that. And DJ has shown that he just hasn't been able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we called it in the offseason, Jordan. We said that if there was a time when this was going to happen, it was going to be during this bye week before they play Notre Dame. I haven't read anything about him being prepared. They're still talking DJ up as a starter. So, from all accounts, DJ will start, but I think they're going to have a quick trigger figure here to pull him if they don't. But your point, why wait to pull him? If you don't feel confident in him, go to pull him now because you don't want to pull him during a game because you might not be able to come back or you might not be able to win that game if you do have to pull him. It
Look,
just
I
doesn't
know
make
that
sense to
I
me.
have, out of the three of us, I think it's safe to say I am not the biggest Notre Dame football fan. However, they got some playmakers on that defense. And if DJ is still struggling, what good is it to start him against that, throw him into the fire, and then pull him out again? What good would it do if they just keep hyping him up and then, it's like, yeah, you're hyping me up and then you're just going to pull me once I make a mistake? Like, just let
Well, then
Cade.
he's going to be looking behind his shoulder, and he's going to be playing like he's looking behind his shoulder, and he's not going to play as well. So yeah, there's
Not
definitely
everybody
some,
But
responds well to that kind of pressure.
yeah.
but you also have to, we're no like Tony said before we got onto this, we're not coaches.
We're not.
Maybe
We're not,
DJ
but
shows he's the better quarterback in practice. When you're going to play the better quarterback, no matter practice or game. So
No, I know Klubnik from high school. He's a pretty explosive player, but obviously you're a freshman. You don't necessarily show that in your freshman year. Not all quarterbacks do. So it's to your point. Maybe practice. He's not quite showing that yet, so they don't want to pull that trigger and throw him out there and then ruin two quarterbacks.
yeah,
All right.
because I feel like they did that with DJ when Trevor Lawrence was out.
Yeah.
Showed he got in his head, just like we've seen. Spencer Radler was projected to be Heisman winner, and then he got pulled halfway through the season, and now look at him. It gets in his head. He thought he was going to be amazing because he had these two amazing games, and now look at where he is.
Yep. In the top 25 with South Carolina. Okay. Now let's talk Ohio State. Ohio State played a really ugly game from what I saw. Honestly, I didn't watch much of this game, but from what I did see, it looked like it was kind of a turnover fest. There were some interceptions, there were some fumbles. This is an ugly game. It took a while for Ohio State to pull away. I would say really, for the most part, they were leading by one score for most of the second half until they kind of got some things go their way at the end of the first half. And then the second half, obviously, they blew the door off of it 54-10. Um, you know, they've been having these slow starts a bit here. Any concerns, Jess, here for Ohio State the rest of the way?
not. I mean, they just have so much talent, especially on that offense, that I have faith that, sure, they might have some sloppy play, but I mean, they showed they can pull it away. We all knew Iowa's strength was their defense. So, I mean, I didn't really take all that much away. They might have been overlooking them a bit because they got Penn State this week. Maybe they were looking past them a bit. Ohio State hasn't really played anyone all that great so far. Again, we were talking a little bit before the show and you mentioned that. So this is going to be Penn State is going to be their first real big matchup. I mean, like Michigan, maybe they go in and just show that, yeah, sure, this is supposed to be their first big matchup, but they're just in a whole nother class. We were talking about that with the Michigan Penn State game. We were saying like, oh, Michigan hasn't played anybody. Penn State at that time I think was ranked 10. So maybe that's what the case is going to be here this week. Maybe Ohio State comes in and just manhandles Penn State, or maybe this was like an early sign that they encountered some resistance, they struggled to get it going, and if they were to play a Michigan, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, you can't afford to stumble a bit. They're too good. So I think we're going to learn a lot more about them against Penn State this weekend than really anything we could have taken away from the Iowa game.
Yep. Jordan, any thoughts on this one?
Iowa has their offense is awful. I don't know what it is. They need to figure out something. top 10. They have one of the best defenses in college football, and it kind of showed in this game. I mean, Ohio State could barely run the ball. They only had 66 total rushing yards. And it would have been a different game if Iowa had an average offense, just because they turned the ball over 6 times and gave Ohio State amazing field position. This game probably should have been 80-0, but Iowa's defense is that good. So, like Jess said, this could be showing what really can happen. What we could see Ohio State. If they can blow out Penn State, then it's Ohio State's the real deal. But if they don't, I don't think Ohio State's going to get past Michigan this year.
All right. I know we have a lot of games from last week, so I'm going to go through rapid fire here really quickly, and then you guys give me any thoughts, anyone that maybe stick out to you. That way we can dive into our Week 9 games to watch. So first up, Oklahoma State beat Texas in a close one, 41-34. I guess Texas is not quite back yet. They found a number to lose this game, but Oklahoma State, I think, is just a better team this year. They're playing better offense, better deep, but just more cohesive as a team. LSU beat down Ole Miss 45-20. As a Notre Dame fan, I hate to say it, but I think Brian Kelly is kind of starting to get things going there in LSU land, and we'll see how they do the rest of the year for that group. Oregon beat UCLA 45-30. So Oregon has just found its groove under Dan Lanning, and since that Georgia loss, they've really turned it around pretty good. Alabama, took out its anger on Mississippi State, but it wasn't like a crazy blowout. It was 30-6. But defense looked a lot better than they have in the last few weeks. And then TCU stayed unbeaten, even though Jordan picked against them. They stayed unbeaten 38-28 with a victory over Kansas State. It's a good victory for TCU as they remain, again, undefeated there. So, Jordan, in those games, anything stood out to you that you want to mention?
Quinn Ewers threw, was it three interceptions? Three interceptions. But, it was his first away game he's actually started. So, getting those nerves of being, especially at Oklahoma State, who has a good defense, and being at Oklahoma State, that hurts. Alabama, they won 30-6, but their offense kind of looked lethargic. They didn't look like an Alabama we would see. This game looked like it should have been a blowout. But Mississippi State, when I watched this game, there was a lot of fourth downs that they went for it and didn't get it. So they didn't get any points from it or anything like that. But with Tony on that LSU Ole Miss and Brian Kelly, the difference between Brian Kelly and Marcus Freeman is Brian Kelly inherited a good team. Marcus Freeman is inheriting what Brian Kelly built.
Well, here's the problem. Brian Kelly left a crap in the quarterback room, so he just they have no quarterback. And what Notre Dame should have done is what LSU's done is go out to the transfer portal and just get a bunch of players to fill in. But obviously, it's much easier to do that at LSU than it is at Notre Dame. So,
got one more thing is Bo Nix 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns in this game against UCLA. Bo Nix right now turned it around a lot since that Georgia loss. Has only thrown 1 interception since that loss. Putting up huge numbers, looking really good right now, and Oregon looks scary on both offense and defense.
Yep. Jess, anything stand out to you in these games?
I mean, really the big one for me was the Oregon game. Like Jordan said, Bo Nix has really turned around. That whole team looks like a completely different team than week 1. But I mean, if you kind of think about it, week 1, new head coach, Bo Nix coming into Oregon, and they have to go essentially. If I remember correctly, the game wasn't at Georgia, like their home stadium, but it was way closer.
It was in Atlanta.
Yeah, it was more or less just a Georgia game anyway, just a Georgia home game anyways. So, that wasn't exactly the greatest way to start off the season, just in general, the defending champs, more or less just their home field. It wasn't it was a neutral field. Yeah, that was a load of crap. But I mean, I don't think Oregon's really going to be able to compete for the playoffs unless some craziness happens. But I think they're looking at another really good bowl game, and I think this is a really good team. They've really turned it around, though. I'm pretty sure they're losing at least Noah Sewell, if not Justin Flo as well, from that linebacking core in the draft this year. So it's going to be interesting watching them next year as well. But I think they got something relatively special cooking there right now.
No, I agree. They have a good recruiting class, so they have some players coming in. So, especially on the offensive side of the ball. All right, let's talk about Week 9 games. There's 5 that stood out to me. So we'll start first with a game near Jess out there who refuses to go out and watch it apparently. But Notre Dame will be taking on Syracuse. They're in what's it called? Is it still the Carrier Dome? Or is it something else now?
No, it's called the JMA Wireless Dome.
We'll keep the Carrier Dome going. And then so interesting matchup. Syracuse is coming off that heartbreaking loss to Clemson. Notre Dame is coming off a blowout of UNLV. Obviously, Notre Dame has been very up and down this year. They played a lot better away, where they've beaten BYU and North Carolina. And they played well against Ohio State. So this is going to be another road game. It's going to be at noon. So it's going to be interesting. Teams play either better or worse if at noon because they're a little lethargic to start. So that's going to be something to watch. Syracuse may be having, their emotions were really high for last game. Will they be up for this game? Notre Dame will be in their head that they could lose potentially in every game. There's just a lot of emotions on both sides that you can look at and see how it could really impact. So, Jordan, who do you got here? Do you got Notre Dame or do you got Syracuse?
I'm gonna pick Notre Dame.
What a surprise!
Just quiet. It'll depend on what quarter, what Drew Pine we get.
Yeah.
If we get last week or the BYU game or the UNC game, Drew Pine, definitely Notre Dame. But if we get the Stanford Drew Pine, I just don't think Notre Dame has a chance. But give me Notre Dame. It's going to be really tight. I think Syracuse is a really good nitty-gritty team that can keep games really close no matter who they play, especially this year. They pulled it out against Purdue. They lost by 6 to Clemson last week. So it's going to be really tight and a really nitty-gritty game. It's going to come down to a field goal at the end or a late touchdown. Notre Dame, though.
All right. Jess, who do you got in this matchup?
All right. So first of all,
Jess,
it is a
everything
4
you're
and a
saying
half
is wrong.
hour drive to get up to Syracuse University from me. So it's not like I'm just it's
I mean,
right
it's just
next
around
door.
the
I'm just
corner.
like, don't want to go.
I mean, me and Jordan, we go to Notre Dame games. They're 4 hours away from us. So I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that's the dedication we have to cover the sport.
That's the dedication you have to Notre Dame. I don't know.
No, I would drive somewhere like that for any game.
Yeah, Rutgers. I would do it for Rutgers.
Probably not Rutgers.
Maybe not.
Okay. You guys want to come down to ECU with me?
No, I don't think anyone wants to go down to
North
ECU
Carolina?
unless they went to school.
You guys are in love with the
I mean,
sport.
is Notre Dame playing at
Let's
ECU?
go to a Pirates game.
I'm in love with the FBS, not the FCS.
Yeah. Hey, they're FBS, right?
The American Athletic Conference is a very legitimate conference.
I mean, it's something. I don't know.
Your team is independent. You guys don't even have a conference. Shush.
It's still better than American.
That being said, I am picking Notre Dame for this one.
Oh, no, you're going to jinx us.
God. You don't believe it. That's the thing.
You don't really believe that.
No. Here, I'm not super into Notre Dame in that, it's like if this was, Alabama versus Missouri, I'm picking Alabama.
Missouri, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I don't think Syracuse is going to respond well. Like you were saying, there was an emotional loss. They kept it close. They blew a lead. and Notre Dame does play well on the road. So for me, yes, my heart truly isn't in Notre Dame here, but I think Syracuse doesn't respond well, and that allows Notre Dame to come out on top. I think Notre Dame wins it by about a touchdown.
Okay.
All right.
You believe it. He actually believes it. I think we're good.
I think this is not going to be a close game at all, and I'm going to give you reasons why that's going to be. I think whatever Clemson discovered in the second half, their running game, where they ran close to 300 yards in this game, and the one strength of Notre Dame this year has been the running game. I feel like they have a stronger offensive line than Clemson does, and so they'll be able to get that running game going. And I think they'll start it early, really focusing on that running game and making this, I think, look more like a North Carolina BYU type of game that Notre Dame had earlier this season. So I'm thinking like a 14-point victory for Notre Dame. Now I could be totally wrong, and Syracuse just comes out and just changes their whole game. Because I am confused that they did that. Why Syracuse did run the ball more? I mean, it seems like Sean Tucker had five attempts. How do you only have 5 attempts to your best player, and then your quarterback runs it 21 times? I just that just doesn't make sense to me. So will they change that up for Notre? I don't know with Notre Dame. Maybe they will. But I think they went away from what made them special. So if they go back to it, maybe it's a different game. So we'll see. All right. Next game, Ohio State at Penn State. We talked about this game a little bit. Again, this game's at noon. So the crazy dark at night whiteout is not going to happen. So I think that's a benefit for Ohio State. The fans will be as rowdy at noon because they haven't been drinking that long. So it's never positive for
Joke's on
Ohio
you.
State.
They're going to start drinking at 7.
They're not going to stop drinking from the night before. Come on.
Yeah, very, very true, very true. And so this game, Ohio State, for Penn State, it played some really close games in years past, but these last few years, it's been a little close, but Ohio State just seems like the more superior team and usually wins pretty easily. Do you guys see this happening this year as well? So, Jess, who do you got? Penn State, Ohio State? They're in Penn State.
So I saw an interesting article talking about Ohio State, and they've gone out to some slower starts than you would like this year, and we talked about this a bit with them in Iowa. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think this is one of those games that it's not Ohio State Michigan, but from particularly in recent years, Penn State has been one of those teams that has really kind of given them a good fight. And so I think they had this game circled. I think they are going to come out there. I think they are going to just punch Penn State in the mouth, and I think they kind of run away with it. Maybe not like a 49-17 kind of win, but I think they win this game by a couple of scores. And even then, it might not have been as close as maybe the final score will suggest. So I've got Ohio State in this one.
Jordan, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I just have no faith in Sean Clifford.
Wow. Okay.
I agree. I don't have any faith in him either. He's terrible.
He's so inconsistent. And big games.
Yeah, he is. Does not come up for big games. It feels like he just makes a play every once in a while, but then most part he just is back there managing the game and not in a good way. I don't think.
Well, that's what a lot of people were saying about Harbaugh.
He is tied. He's 80th in passing yards, tied for 42nd in touchdowns, tied for 23rd in interceptions. He's an average quarterback that can't play these big games. He had a really bad game against Michigan. He has sparks of good games against okay teams. He had not that great of a game against, Auburn, who they blew out. I just don't think he's going to be able to, compete against Ohio State, who has better players on defense than most teams they play. They are more skilled. Penn State, Sean Clifford multiple years has really brought the team down in, how inconsistent he is. So I'm going to pick Ohio State by at least 3 touchdowns just because of offense, the Penn State offense. So like Iowa, just
I
is
think
going
he's
to
going to be
be.
the only reason they're in the game at all. Like I know
I
I have
don't.
Ohio State, but I think they're going to have to rely on his arm there, and
I think
Go
by the end
watch
of it,
film.
I think by the end of this game, Drew Aller for Penn State will be the quarterback and will be the starting quarterback for the rest of the year after that.
Go watch the Michigan game. It's going to happen again.
We'll record this video
fair
and play it
enough.
in front of the next podcast. All right. I think Ohio State wins by 21-28. It's not going to be close. Next game, Oklahoma State at Kansas State. So this is an interesting one. Oklahoma State's been a solid team this year. Only lost that close one. Kansas State has played really good games and kind of dealing with some injuries. So I think Adrian Martinez, I don't know if he's going to play or not. They have a good backup in Will, who played really well last week and almost, helped them last week. But what do you guys see happening this week? Do you see Oklahoma State is kind of continuing their dominance that they've had the last couple of years? Or you see Kansas State with whether it's Will Howard or Adrian Martinez finding a way to win? What do you say, Jess?
Oklahoma State's going to run away with this one. That's what I think. I mean, I just think they got the better overall team. They got better playmakers. They got better quarterback. I mean, Kansas State has been pretty solid this year. But this is another one where I think it's going to be like a 3-score game in Oklahoma State's favor. I think it's going to be closer, but then maybe, like, I don't know. It's hard to say because Kansas State, they're a solid team. Like, I don't think Oklahoma State is so significantly better. Again, to go back to the Alabama-Missouri example that I used earlier. It's not like that, but I just think Oklahoma State maybe not runs away, but wins comfortably.
All right,
I think
you
that's
agree?
how I'll put it.
Do you agree, Jordan?
Yeah, I think Kansas State, especially like coming off the TCU loss last week, they just kind of, if Adrian Martinez doesn't play, this game's going to be a blowout. If Adrian Martinez plays, I think he can keep the game close for a while, but then fourth quarter, third quarter, Oklahoma State pulls away. I don't have a lot to say on this game.
No worries. I do like Will Howard though, the backup quarterback. Now, I obviously I don't think he's as talented right now as Adrian Martinez, but I think he has some talent to make this a game. But I agree. I think Oklahoma State wins this one, probably 10 points. All right, let's go Florida, Georgia. Normally this is a game of a week type of game, but I honestly don't think this is going to be a close game. I do think Georgia's going to pretty much have their way with Florida. I could be totally wrong, but that's my feeling going into this game. Jordan, do you agree?
I do agree, but it could all it's the game, it's the trap game for Georgia. It's the game the week before they play Tennessee, who is a bigger game than this Florida game, and same thing for Tennessee. Tennessee plays Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky's a better team than Florida, but it's still a trap game. Georgia, we could see a Florida team come out and smack Georgia in the face. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen just because Georgia might be looking ahead, especially the way we've seen Georgia play against Vandy early and then Missouri almost losing. It could be that game that we talk about on Monday or Sunday about an upset. But give me Georgia though. I think Georgia's going to be able to hold them and pull off, by at least 28.
All right, Jess, you agree?
I agree that this could be the trap game. However, I think I'll pick Florida here.
Oh, God.
I don't know. Call it a feeling. Anthony Richardson, while inconsistent, is, correct me if I'm wrong, he's a different kind of quarterback than Georgia has faced all year. Again, they don't have as many pieces. on that defense, Georgia, that as they did last year, that last year's defense was like legendary. They played down to their competition a lot. Like Kent State was in it. They almost lost to Missouri. But I think Anthony Richardson could make some plays here that just kind of puts Georgia on their back foot, and maybe they don't recover. So I'll be a bit of a contrarian here because I know, Tony, I think you're gonna, based on your reaction, you're picking Georgia, and I guess you're picking them easily. But I think out of all the games here, this one, of real upset, I think this is the biggest shot, and I think I'll go with Georgia here.
No,
So,
I mean,
you mean Florida?
Yeah, Florida. What did I say?
Georgia.
Oh,
it's good. It's good.
I got a little
You're not even
too ahead of
your
myself there
mind
and
is
just
not even
skipped
with
over
you.
my
Your
words.
mind is
Yeah,
not there.
I'm
It's
going
like no,
Florida.
you can't pick Florida. Your mind's saying. So I do think Georgia's going to win pretty easily. I just remember last year Anthony Richardson just getting destroyed by Georgia. And of course, different defense, different players. But I just feel like they have his number, and he probably is in his head a bit. He's even talked about it this week, how he remembers that game. How that was his first start at Georgia last year, and how much he struggled. So he might be coming out with something to prove. That could be a good thing where he's out there just lighting up the scoreboard. It could be a bad thing where he is pushing and pressuring too much, and it's a being even a worse score. But I'll give you credit for calling that upset. We'll definitely make sure we call you out on it if they get the win. So, all right, Kentucky at Tennessee. Interesting matchup. Kentucky lost a lot this year when they had their quarterback Will Levis out. They have a good defense, but this is at Tennessee, so it's going to make it a tougher game for them. But Jordan, who do you got, Kentucky or Tennessee?
Oh, like I said before, with the Georgia-Florida game, it's a trap game. Honestly, out of the two, I could see Tennessee losing to Kentucky. But at home, another ranked opponent. Give me Tennessee. I think they're going to be able to hold this Kentucky team better than they held Alabama early. I think it's going to be early 21-0, 21-3 kind of game early. And I think Tennessee is just going to pull away. It's going to be a blowout. I think Tennessee's going to beat them as bad as they beat LSU. I just don't. I don't see Kentucky being able to compete offensively.
Okay, Jess, what do you say?
I've got Tennessee winning. I think they win this game in like a 31-24 kind of game, 31-27 kind of game. I think they're just a bit more talented. And while I know a lot of people are super high on Tennessee's quarterback, Hendon Hooker, the prospect, I think Will Levis is a better quarterback, but I don't think the gap, it's not like there's some crazy gap there. I think he's a bit more talented, but I think Tennessee's just the better team right now. And I honestly, I don't know if I would truly consider this a trap game the way that the Georgia-Florida game is. Tennessee knows Kentucky is a good team. They're ranked for a reason, and I think they'll have that mindset, and I don't think they'll overlook them, and that's why I think they will win this game. 31-24, 31-27. Two teams they're both solid. Tennessee's ranked third right now, but they're both good teams, and so I think Tennessee comes away with the win here. It's at home, and honestly, I think that'll be the big difference maker.
So I'm going to call an upset here. I'm calling Kentucky over Tennessee. I think this game reminds me a lot of Pittsburgh, where Tennessee struggled a bit. I think Kentucky has a good defense, solid quarterback that gets the job done, and a good running game. And honestly, I think even though Tennessee is obviously a great offensive team, they still have showed some signs of defense lapses here or there. And I think Kentucky could take advantage of that. And I think Kentucky's probably the best defensive team when they have all their pieces that they Tennessee has played all year, because I don't think Alabama played up to their pieces when they played them. So I'm interested to see. I think Kentucky can get this win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out to be a Tennessee blowout. But I just feel like Kentucky has the ingredients to take this game, and so I think they will. All right. Let's get to the question we all been waiting for this entire podcast. Hopefully Jordan has done crazy amount of research and thought about this over the last week. But our top 5 chips. So, Jess, we'll start with you, man. Give me a good top five. I need a solid top five. I mean, I'm talking like NBA All Star level chips right here is what I'm needing.
You're not getting that. Um, I'm not a huge chip guy, to be
Oh,
honest. It was a little hard for me to come up with this list.
okay.
And I do think most people, it's either going to be controversial or incredibly basic, but I don't think anyone's going to find it all that interesting. At 5, I have the Funyuns. I think they are. I think they're called.
They are.
Yeah, the onion flavored ring chips. So I've got Funyuns at 5.
Okay.
At 4, I have the classic Lay's. They'd be higher if
Oh my
they
God.
weren't just bags of air.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, this is
At-
basic. I will say this is a basic list so far.
At
Jess.
3, I have Pringles. The
Basics?
pizza ones, the
Oh.
pizza flavor Pringles.
Okay.
At 2, I have Pringles salt and vinegar. I think it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Or-
Pringles
one of-
fans, I see. I
Again,
hate
I'm
Pringles,
not.
by the way.
I'm not some crazy chip guy. This is
Well, I could definitely
and
tell
then,
that already.
number 1, I've got barbecue Lays.
Okay, that's a good. I like barbecue lace. That's a good. That's probably your the only
And
chip I
I'm
liked out of
not
your
sure,
5.
like some honorable mentions would be like the basic, kind of salty chips that you can like dip into like cheese or salsa, stuff like that. Like a party. I forget which ones those are.
Tostitos? Tortilla chips?
Yeah, maybe. Again, I'm not some big like you
Oh
want to.
man,
You want
This
to
is not
you
your
want to hear
category.
you want to hear me have some passionate opinions about something. Let's do top 5 candies next week.
that was
All
my
right,
that was my list. I had that listed for next week.
Yeah,
So
for Halloween, in honor of Halloween, that's
Halloween
what we'll
next
do
week.
next
Top 5
week.
candies.
But
Yeah.
that I will be passionate on.
Jess is also going to dress up as the Notre Dame mascot, the leprechaun, for Halloween. Just so
Oh.
you all know.
I
That's
agreed
nice,
to no such thing. I don't have
All
the
right.
means. I don't got costume for that. I
right,
still gotta
Jordan.
go costume shopping.
All right.
Or makeup
Oh.
shopping. for
Jess,
whatever
you're
I end up
not. No,
doing.
Jess, you're too old for this. Relax.
Hey, I'm going out to hit some bars. I'm not going out door to door for candy.
You probably are. Don't lie.
I am, but I have kids, so I have a
No,
excuse.
you're probably going by
You have
yourself.
an excuse. You have to use your kids for candy. That's what
Yeah,
Halloween is. for you
whatever
now.
you have to do.
No, parents
Um,
don't give parents candy.
They do if they have
No,
little
that's what the
kids.
kids are for.
Yeah, they have the bags. They carried all the. They do all the work. I just have to eat all the candy later.
Gotta do the
all right.
dad tax.
Yeah, exactly. Jordan, please tell me you have a better list of chips than Jess just provided us. here.
All right. So, salt and vinegar chips are my number 1. I'm gonna go number 1 here. I don't know what it
Beautiful.
is. Salt
Beautiful.
and vinegar chips are the best chips.
They are.
Um,
They are the best chips in the world.
They hit different. Okay.
They do.
And now the next 4, there's no particular order.
Okay.
I can't, put them all. But Cool Ranch Doritos, I
right.
don't know. I
Good
like
chip,
Cool
good
Ranch
chip.
Doritos. Miss Vicky's Kettle Jalapeno chips. I think they're at Jimmy John's.
We have very similar tastes in chips. I can already tell.
I like that.
Yeah.
I do when I go to the gas
Take note,
station.
Jets.
Flamin' Hot Cheetos are my go-to at the gas station.
Oh man, that's on my list too.
Definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
I'm-
And then what?
Y'all
Just-
both are liking these spicy chips.
Yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
like some kick.
And then, like my did I
Or
have
like
4?
pizza Pringles. Okay.
Pizza Pringles.
What's wrong with
Jeez.
pizza Pringles?
So I'm gonna go a little healthier.
Oh,
I think
okay.
they're like the garden sun chips. I think that's what it is.
Okay. Yeah. That was good. That's a nice
Is that-
healthy option. Yeah, it is.
Is that
That's
5?
good.
I had to round
That's
on
5.
my round on my list with healthy
A little
options.
healthy. Okay. Good. I don't have any healthy options in mine.
I figured.
All right, salt and vinegar number 1 for me. Obviously, it's obviously choice, Jesse. Okay, but you had,
Look,
your
I have
Pringles
some
so
vinegar
low.
on my list.
but it's Pringles. Nobody likes Pringles salt and vinegar.
The
and
Pringles, it's a good flavor of chip. I'll take it back. It's not specifically Pringle, but just salt and vinegar.
Yeah. See,
Salt and vinegar.
the reason I wouldn't put Pringles on my list is because my hands are big, and so when I get down low, I don't want to dump all the stuff out. I can't get the chip at the thing, so it doesn't really work out.
Okay, salt and vinegar, but I have a particular one. If you're ever in the South, guys, try Tom's vinegar and salt. Those are the best salt and vinegar chips in the world. So I really encourage everybody to go out there and find your local Tom's, or you can order a box of them from Tom's. They do deliver. I got a birthday present before. That's why I know this, guys. Okay. Next one, Doritos Spicy Nacho. The best Doritos there is. And Jess, I can't believe you had no Doritos on your top 5 list. That's just blasphemy.
My only controversial chip opinion is that I don't like Doritos.
No, your whole list was controversial.
How it was just basic. Come on.
It was basic. And no, we'll give you that.
That's why it was controversial.
My next one was Kettle jalapeno chips, like you mentioned, Jordan. So good choice there. Next one, regular Doritos. Can't go wrong for regular Dorito. That's what you can't. That's the first one you came into knowing when you were young. That's all they had growing up. So, next was obviously Cheetos Flamin' Hot. I mean, it's the best one out there. So you got to go there. Your top 5. So those are I think me and Jordan had some really good top 5 lists, and we had Jess's as well. So definitely, definitely good.
I'm sorry, I'm not into the spice. I've never been huge into spicy food. Like I like a little bit of kick. I need flavor. Like I'm not that white. That like salt and pepper is my limit.
Sounded pretty
that
white.
Is not how I eat.
Yeah,
flaming onions, punions, whatever you call them, and then like regular Lay's with no flavor. That's pretty white, I will say.
Yeah, come on, dude. But I will put
look. You're the ones that are cracking down on the pizza one. What's wrong with pizza?
On our Twitter, after you listen to this, after we post it, I will put the link to the Amazon page for Tom's salt or vinegar and salt chips. You can order a 12-pack for $21.45.
Is this how we're trying to get our sponsorship?
We're not. But hey, Tom's, if you're listening and you like to sponsor the podcast, hey, reach out. We're accepting sponsors now.
But the company Tom's, not a person named Tom. All right,
not some guy Tom is not sending his own.
Don't anyone randomly named Tom in any comments, replies. They don't. Chances are he's not making you chips.
Hey, and Tom's, if you're out there on Twitter, we're going to tag you in this podcast, and if you want to start sponsoring us, please let us know, sir.
But only the vinegar and salt chips can be sent to us. Nothing else.
Yeah, we don't want anything else. We have vinegar and salt.
I am willing to try more options.
Anything that
doesn't
have any spice or flavor, Jess is up for it.
So okay.
I'm pretty sure they have a generic, just like potato chip.
Just the chip.
It's called chip.
I know this doesn't count as chips. I know this doesn't count as chips. Actually, I don't know if it counts as chips. But also, another controversial opinion here. We're really gonna get some haters for this one. Don't like goldfish either.
All right, we gotta end the podcast.
Oh man. Well, I'll make sure we bring that up and then we take our top 5 crackers, not to bring you into that list.
They count as crackers. Okay, cool.
Yes, they do count as crackers.
Oh, yeah,
wait, does combos count as crackers too?
That's where it's more like a snack. I don't know what you would consider that. I guess
it's definitely snack food.
It has some cracker elements, but in like a chip type bag. So
But wait, what about pretzels? Could I put pretzels on my chip list?
I think that could be in a chip list, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Jess probably I think Jess likes the pretzels without the salt.
Yeah, the unsalted pretzels.
Yes.
Actually, no.
He doesn't like pretzels. They're too much flavor.
Too much flavor.
I mean, I like the the pretzels. It's like with peanut butter inside. Those are really
combos.
God, I don't like those.
There is no pleasing you.
Nope.
There is.
All right. Well, boys,
not with these bad lists and chips you're providing. So, all right, guys. Well, I think we end the podcast there. Next week, as Jess mentioned, for Halloween, we'll give you our top 5 candies. On Jess's list will scare you half to death. But until then, follow us on Twitter in the Flat Pod. Follow us on our website. We just posted an article this week in our top 10. We'll be posting some more articles in the coming weeks talking about our top 10 list leading up to the playoffs and our Heisman list as well, leading up to the Heisman winner being announced. So follow along with us there at intheflatpodcast.com, and we look forward to talking to you next week. Bye.